thank you again for joining us on Before We Burn Out. Today, I'd like to talk about something that's been on my mind for the past year. And for once, Sol, you'll be delighted because I'm not the harbinger of doom, as I have
What?
been in all the other episodes. I want to talk about the role that our skills as sustainability people play in the context of this sort of current compliance driven sustainability and the transformation that's happening because of AI and the disruptive tools that is developing. And so in today's episode, we're going to deep dive into what it means when we talk about emotional intelligence, deep listening, and the courage to use soft skills that might actually save us.
Yeah, lovely. It's super topical, and it's just worth saying at the beginning, right? Calling them soft skills undersells it, because for me, these are some of the hardest skills to cultivate. They're also the ones that possibly matter the most if we want to build something more human, more sustainable, and more hopeful as we move into this time of AI and technology.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm sure many of you read or saw that World Economic Forum report, namely because it was posted all over LinkedIn when it came out. But in January of this year, they published the report, if you haven't read it, and we'll link it in the show notes, called AI and the Future of Work. And it highlighted the key competencies that would be needed. And those are technical proficiency, interpersonal skills, emotional intelligence, and a commitment to lifelong learning as skills and competencies that were essential to our workforce.
Mm. So while AI systems, they've come a really long way in recognizing, responding to emotional cues, even so far as offering messages that provide emotional support and insight, it still lacks that nuance and sense of authentic human understanding and self-reflection.
In my experience, and I've said this before on a previous episode, I found the role of most sustainability professionals is often to negotiate within the
Mm.
organization because we rarely have that control or oversight over P&Ls, and therefore we're seen largely as a cost to the business rather than revenue generating. And so as a result, I think we've become master negotiators. One of my core skills is building relationships. And I think those are the exact skills that AI can't replicate, especially if we assume, and I do, perhaps because I am a client facing consultant, that business is done in the real world. It's done in meetings, it's done in offices, it's done in coffee shops, it's done in bars over drinks and in boardrooms.
Mm. Precisely. And framed another way, sustainability professionals have been training for this moment their whole careers. They are soft skill athletes who have been building consensus without authority, without being in those positions where they're expected to lead in certain ways, telling complex, compelling stories about data, navigating complex stakeholder emotions around this change that we're creating.
I'm trying hard not to giggle over what you just said, but calling sustainability professionals athletes is definitely a new one.
Yeah,
um,
100%.
but it does sort of tap into that insight. I read a Reuters report that actually ended up leading me to start upskilling myself in foundational AI skills last summer, because it said very specifically that the sustainability sector faced a really significant digital skills gap in order to harness AI effectively. And when I unpicked that a little bit further, like whilst I might personally feel that the sustainability agenda has gone backwards, actually an article that was released earlier this year from the US Center for Sustainable Excellence came out and said, it came out, I think, around the same time as that World Economic Forum report. And it showed in their data that hiring for green skills was actually experiencing a surge, particularly in tech and construction. So actually what the real story here is, there's not enough of us to meet that demand. And if I take our previous comments, while sustainability professionals might lack those sort of AI technical proficiency expertise, because, you know, we aren't coders, we're not data scientists, we actually excel in the very thing that's needed to ensure AI is adopted ethically and embedded properly into organizations.
And so this is where we see a paradox. So AI keeps getting smarter, and what becomes increasingly important is the thing it can't replace, which is around perhaps human judgment, these skills we've been discussing. And as the World Economic Forum flagged that you mentioned, the most valuable skills in the coming years aren't just the technical ones, they're the human ones. Things like problem solving, communication, empathy. These are the skills that will decide how AI gets used as well, whether it's done responsibly, whether it's done transparently, and with the awareness of social and organizational impact. And so here's the twist: that the very things that sustainability professionals sometimes felt put them behind, like focusing less on technical skills and more on influence and ethics and systems thinking, are quite possibly now their competitive advantage. Maybe they're not catching up to AI. They are the ones who can make sure it actually serves human well-being, planetary health, and that's their bread and butter, right? Like seeing the bigger picture, weighing up stakeholder impacts, grounding decisions in ethics, right?
How do we unpick that paradox? If I'm to take what you just said, Sol, I've seen leaders in sustainability, but I would hazard a guess this transcends into other disciplines as well, burning out from trying to be technical enough, trying to keep up, particularly in climate, carbon software, the tech tools. But the truth is, I don't think their value, our value, is the thing that the AI can do. And so we need to do more to actually spotlight that. Our ability to read a room, sense what's not being said, navigate that emotional resistance to the very change we're proposing for a just society and an ethical business are the things that I think we're missing a trick here.
I think this brings us on to another insight, right, that we wanted to share in this conversation. And, we can call it from compliance to compassion, perhaps, that
Yeah.
AI is good at crunching the numbers and the metrics of the ESG, but what also really moves a room, what change minds, is the human story. It's the compassion, it's the courage. And in the Harvest Business Review's latest research that came out just earlier this year in February, they published a report titled Using AI to Make You a More Compassionate Leader. And in it, the authors explore how leaders can leverage AI for more personalized coaching, enhanced communication, but emphasizes that the key is using the technology with the right intention to enhance human compassion.
I wonder how you feel as a mindset coach reading articles like that, because you're right, that human element is even more critical. I'm not sure how I feel about AI teaching me to be a more compassionate leader. I think I'd like to receive those lessons from an actual human. But I
Yeah.
think whilst I say that, I'm like, you as a coach, I don't need to compete with machines. If we are to really understand the role of AI, human connection is the thing that is invaluable. The AI is just a tool that accelerates what we can do in our day-to-day lives. And in an earlier episode, we talked about the climate activist Patience Nabakalu and her presence at the HSBC AGM, her voice, her courage to speak out, all that energy being carried into that space is way more weight than any report or AI generated blog post could have ever have had. So I guess what I'm asking you, Sol, is how do we how do we really build those soft skills like more deliberately?
Yeah, great. So the reframe here really, as you've said, is we're not trying to compete with AI on its terms. We don't need to try to become machine-like. We want to build and develop and train the deeper human muscles that we have within us. And there's a practice that I share with my clients that help build those muscles, the really human experience of checking in with ourselves, building the skills of curiosity and compassion and courage by just checking in with these three different aspects of our experience: our head, our heart, and our body. And so you can make it a habit. You can pause a few times each day and ask yourself a couple of questions. And the more that you practice in these small, ordinary moments, the more natural it becomes. And then the more And then the easier that it becomes to draw upon and access when the pressure's on in the heat of a moment of a conversation or a meeting or a decision that needs to be taken. And it can be a general background guide to help us stay human in our behavior, in how we work with AI. And I thought we could do that together as a practice. As you know, I like to practice everything. I like to take the insights and the theories and turn it into something tangible. So if you'd be happy to, dear listener, Anita, maybe we can just take a moment. Let's make it tangible. And I'm just going to ask you the question of, and you don't need to answer this out loud, but just think about what you say or do that isn't particularly helpful, that doesn't necessarily make you feel good, that you'd like to change. Or another way of asking this is, what is something that you hold back from saying or doing that you'd like to change? And we're really tuning into our human capacity here to become aware of what goes on within us when we're reactive. And you can even bring that to life. You can pick a regular or a specific scenario or instance where you found yourself saying or doing something or holding back, which just didn't work for you. And just play it through in your mind for a second. Like, what happened? And what was your reaction? What did you say or do next? And just notice what comes up for you while you think about this wasn't ideal, why it wasn't helpful. And then we can tune into the head. It's curiosity. Just ask yourself, like, well, what thoughts are present here? What story am I telling myself right now? Are there any assumptions or interpretations, or did I jump to any conclusions? And we can tune into the body, the place of sensations, further curiosity. How am I feeling right now? What are the signals? Is there tension? Am I feeling anxious? Am I frustrated? Or am I embarrassed right now that led to this? And then we can turn into the heart, emotions, clarity. What actually, at the end of the day, what's actually important right now? What truly matters in this moment? And we can run through this in quiet moments by ourselves. We can even do it in the heat of the moment. Sometimes a super quick check-in. Head, heart, and body. What are the thoughts and the stories going on right now? How is it making me feel? And what is actually really important? Get real clarity as to what you want to prioritize in this moment. And even just 1 minute of asking ourselves these questions and tuning into our present moment experience can really help us reconnect with our humanity and those soft skills. And before stepping into a conversation where the data or the facts alone won't do it, where we need to bring our curiosity, where we want to bring our story, where we want to bring our compassion, tuning into the human beneath it all and share from that place is a really nice humanizing practice. How does that land?
You're right. I think harking back to the first line that you said, which is these skills are not soft in the way in which we might consider them soft. They're actually the hardest things to do. And I'm reminded of another podcast that's run by two American women who are married. And it says we can do hard things. And just some of those prompts that you gave us just allow you to remember that you have done hard things and you have gotten through
Mm,
them and you
mm.
have learned something. And that's what's made you a resilient person. It's made you a resilient human person that can lead in that complexity.
Yeah, exactly. I truly think that as sustainability professionals, we have this opportunity to really lean into these human skills and to celebrate them and use them as skills that AI can't replace. And that will become increasingly important when working alongside AI and having a role in how it gets used. And so I guess as a final invitation, I'll just say if this conversation to anyone out there, if it's resonated, here is just a reminder of that reflection that you can carry with you this week. And you can think about it, you can journal about it, you can take a minute to pause and close your eyes and check in. What is something that I say or do that I really want to shift? And then just become a curious and compassionate explorer and check in with yourself, with your thoughts. What story am I telling myself? Your body, how does that feel inside? And your heart, what is truly important here in this moment?
I love those prompts. I'm going to pop them in the show notes for anyone who's like me, that is listening to this on the move and probably wants to revisit them. So, as always, you can find us wherever you listen to your podcasts. We are on YouTube. We're also on our LinkedIn pages, which is where you can get in touch with us. And that's really where we want to hear your reflections on how you're building these soft skills in your own way. So, do message us. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. Thank you for listening and just keep going gently.
We'll see you next time before we burn.